Right. So we'll start with the prayers. Please repeat after me. Om Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam
Om Shankaracharya Madhyamam
Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam
Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam
Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini
Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini
Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Me Sada
Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada
Om Sahana Vavatu
Om Sahana
Sahanau Bhunaktu
Sahanam Gunaktu
Saha Viryam Karavavahai
Sahaviryam Karavavahai
Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai
Tejasvinavadhimatamastavidvishavahai
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti
Vasudevendra Yogindram Natva Jnanapradam Gurum
Vasudevendra Yogendram Natva Jnanapradam Gurum
Mumukshunam Hitarthaya Tattvabodho Bhidiyate
Mumukshunam hitaya Tattvabodha vidiyate.
Om Namah Shivaya. So I will just mute everybody, and if you want to speak, please unmute and then please go back to mute. So we had a break last week, and so now it's a 2-week gap. And so I think we'll start with a revision. So if you remember, this topic began with the question, what is Atma? The student asks the teacher, what is this Atma? And in this question, there is another indirect question. When you ask what is Atma, indirectly you are also asking what is Anatma, what is not Atma. And so that is how the teacher has chosen to answer this question. First, he is going to talk about Anatma, and then he is going to say, this is not Atma. So once we negate everything, then whatever remains, that alone is Atma. So this is the approach that the teacher has taken. And so he listed some categories and he said, these things, they are not Atma. In other words, those categories he listed, they are Anatma topics. Okay, and what did he list? He listed the Shariratrayam, the first group. The second group was Pancha Kosha, and the third group was Avastha Trayam. Okay, so 3 groups he listed. And we had started discussing the first group, Shariratrayam, which is the 3 bodies. And we had finished discussing the first body. What is the first body called?
Sthula
Sthula Shariram, or the physical body. And we had seen Sthula Shariram in 4 points. What are those 4 points?
The condition, the cause,
function and the nature.
Yes, condition, cause, function, and nature. So quick revision for Sthula Shariram. What is the condition of Sthula Shariram?
It is gross and it is called Indriya Gocharam.
Yes, it is gross. In other words, it is available to the sense organs to perceive. And the technical word for that is Indriya Gocharam. Indriya Gocharam means available to the sense organs. Next, what is the cause? There are two types of causes. What are they?
The general and the specific.
In Sanskrit?
Samanya Karanam and Vishesh Karanam.
Yes, Samanya Karanam and Vishesha Karanam. What is the Samanya Karanam for Sthula Shariram?
The Pancha Mahabhuta.
The Pancha Mahabhuta, but in the Sthula form. Okay, the gross 5 elements. Sthula Pancha Mahabhutani. Okay, grossified 5 elements. In other words, these 5 elements are also available to the sense organs. Right? So you can see the earth, you can see the fire. These things are available for you to perceive with your sense organs. Then, what is Vishesha Karanam for Sthula Shariram?
The Karma.
The
The
karmas, the mixture of papam and punyam. Right. Next, what is the function?
It is the abode of the Jiva.
It is the abode for the experiences. Okay, it is the temporary residence for the jiva with which the experience is able to take place. And what is the nature of Sthula Shariram?
It's constantly changing.
You told about the Shadavika.
Constant.
Yes, and how many changes are there?
6.
Six.
And what are their names?
Asti, Jayate,
Ananta,
Vidhite,
Vardhate,
Viparanate, and
Vinati,
Apakshiyate and
and
Vinashyate.
Vinashni.
Right. Asti Jayate, Vardhate, Viparinamate, Apakshiyate, and Vinashyati. And it is the potential existence, the birth from the womb, the growth phase during childhood, and then the maintenance phase where there is no growth and no decay. Then there is a phase of decay, and finally there is death of the physical body. Right, so we saw till here. And now the next topic will be the Sukshma Sharira. Now, at this stage, it is important to remember why we are doing this inquiry into Sthula Shariram. Okay, so this is not like an anatomy class where in an anatomy class, the investigation into the physical body is an end in and of itself, right? But here, the inquiry into Sthula Shariram is not the end by itself. It is merely a stepping stone. Okay, we are studying Sthula Shariram in order to finally dismiss it. Okay, in order to finally negate it. The whole point of this exercise of trying to understand what is Sthula Shariram, what is Sukshma Shariram, it is to be able to finally say that this is not Atma. To say that Sthula Shariram is not Atma, first we need to understand what is Sthula Shariram. And so that is why we are doing this, definition and trying to understand. So now that we have finished Sthula Shariram, we will move on to the next one, which is Sukshma Shariram. So last time somebody had asked, till now we are talking about the body, but we have not talked about the mind. So now in Sukshma Shariram, we will be talking about the mind. So mind is one part of Sukshma Shariram. Now, when we look back in history, a lot of philosophers and a lot of even the medical sciences, they've always tried to distinguish between the body and the mind. Obviously, it's not that clear. The lines are blurred, and in fact, in modern science, psychology was only kind of recently accepted as a field. Till then, people were in denial about what is this mind. They always thought that the mind is generated by the brain, but that is not the case. The brain is simply the locus of the mind. It is simply located in the brain, but the brain does not produce the mind. Okay, so now we are going to see this distinction between the physical part and then this subtle part, the mind and all the other components under this topic of Sukshma Shariram. So now we will read. The student has asked the question and the teacher has given the answer. We will read this and see the meaning. Sukshma Shariram Kim
Sukshma
शरीरं किं
Apanchikrita
Apanchīkrita
Panchamahabhutaikritam
Panchamābhūtaikritam
Satkarmajanyam
Satkarmajanyam
Sukhadukkhadi Bhogasadhanam
Sukkhadukkhādhanam
Panchajnanendriyani
Panchajnānendriyāni
Panchakarmendriyani
Panchakarmendriyāni
Panchapranadayah
Panchaprānādayah
Manashchaikam
Manashchaikam
Buddhishchaika
Buddhishchaika
Evam Saptadashakalabihi
Evam Saptadashakalabihi
Sahayatishtati
Sahayatishtati
Tatsukshma Shariram.
Tatsukshma.
Let me just mute you all. And so before we see the Sanskrit verse, first we will have a discussion on Sukshma Shariram. We will understand it and then we will come back and see the meanings of the words. So for Sukshma Shariram also we are going to look at it in those same 4 points that we saw for Sthula Shariram. The condition, the cause, the function and the nature. So the first one is the condition. The condition for Sukshma Shariram is that it is Sukshma. Sukshma means subtle. Subtle means it is not available to the sense organs. Okay. So when you, for example, if you talk about the mind, other people's mind is not visible to you, right? So, you know, there's a joke that once a person had a headache. And so another person told him that, you know, I can't see your headache, so it's not there. So the first person hit the second person and the second person said, oh, this pains. And so he said, yeah, I can't see your pain, so it must not be there. Okay, so you can't really point at someone and say, just because I don't see your mind, you don't have a mind. That is not the case, right? So this is the meaning of subtle, meaning it is not available to your sense organs. You can't see it, feel it, hear it. It's not available to you to perceive. But it is partially knowable to the owner. You can sense your own mind, you can sense your own emotions, your own pain, hunger, all these things, right? Only to yourself it is partially knowable. So this is the condition of the Sukshma Shariram. Other people's Sukshma Shariram is invisible. Your own Sukshma Shariram is partially knowable to you. And the technical word for this non-availability to the sense organs is Indriya Agocharam, not available to the Indriyas. Indriyas means sense organs, not available, so Agocharam. Okay, so this is the condition of the Sukshma Sharira. Next is the cause. So again we have two, Samanya Karanam and Vishesha Karanam. This is the understanding is similar to the previous one. So general cause is the commonality and Vishesha Karanam is that which is unique. Okay, so for this Samanya Karanam, it is the Sukshma Pancha Bhutani, the subtle 5 elements. So the 5 elements in their subtle, invisible, intangible form, that is the general cause of the Sukshma Shariram. So in the case of the physical body, it was the gross 5 elements, meaning the 5 elements that you can perceive with your senses. But the same 5 elements also exist in a subtle form, not available to your sense organs. That is the composition for Sukshma Shariram. The 5 elements in their subtle form, which is called as Sukshma Pancha Bhota. Then we have the Vishesha Karanam, which is the specific cause, and again it is the karmas. The mixture of the papam and punyam is what determines the kind of Sukshma Shariram you will have. So we all know that different people have different personalities, different physiology. So I hope you know the difference between anatomy and physiology. Anatomy is the physical part, the structure, and physiology is the functioning. Okay, so the physiology part comes under Sukshma Shariram, but anatomy part comes under Sthula Shariram. Okay, physiology is the functioning, and so that invisible functioning, that comes under Sukshma Shariram. So we all know that different people have different metabolism, different body, functionings. People feel things differently. We know this. So this is dependent on the Sukshma Shariram, and that is determined by the karmas. The mixture of papam and punyam determines what kind of mind you will get, what kind of personality, what kind of metabolism, all these things, all the functionings of the body, that is determined by karmas. Now remember again that karma is not some random allocation. Okay, nobody is sitting up there and randomly telling you get this, you get this. No, it is your own actions that determine the future karmas. Okay, and this we will see in later topics when we discuss karma in detail. But for now, it is important to understand that karma is not randomly allocated by anybody. It is through your own creation. Your own actions result in their own consequences. And that is what you experience. It is a cause and effect relationship. Right? So this is Vishesha Karanam, the specific cause. Next is the function of the Sukshma Shariram. So the Sukshma Shariram is a tool or an instrument with which the body is able to interact with the outside world. And this interaction with the external world results in experiences. And the instrument for these experiences is this Sukshma Shariram. Now, it is not just one instrument, it is actually a bundle of instruments. It is a collection of multiple instruments put together, forming this Sukshma Shariram. Okay. Now, let's be more clear on the difference between the function of Sthula and function of Sukshma. So we said that Sthula Shariram is the abode or the residence for the Sukshma Shariram. And Sukshma Shariram is the instrument for these experiences. So an example to help you understand this is your phone. Okay, so look at your phone. Your phone has two parts, the hardware and the software. The hardware is what you see, what you hold. If you break open the phone, inside you will find the battery, the motherboard, all the circuits and electronic chips, right? All of that is hardware. But other than this hardware, there also exists software in your phone, right? And that is the programming, the codes, the binary, all the zeros and ones. And that part is invisible. You can't see it, right? And that software is located in the hardware. The software has taken up residence in the hardware of the phone. And both are necessary and dependent on each other in order for interaction with the world, right? Even if one of them is not there, it will not work. Suppose, only the software is there. Can the software exist without the hardware? Can it do anything even if it exists? It's not possible. And if only the hardware is there, there's no software inside, then it is a dead phone, right? It doesn't do anything. It can't do anything. So this is the difference. And this is the same relationship between Sthula Shariram and Sukshma Shariram. Sthula is like the hardware part and Sukshma is like the software part of the phone. Okay. And the difference between a living body and a dead body is the presence of this Sukshma Shariram. Only when the Sukshma Shariram is there, then only the body becomes alive. So in my 5th standard science textbook, we had this sentence which said the world is divided into living and non-living objects. And then they classified living and non-living. They said non-living objects are those that can't move, can't think, can't feel, and all that. And then they said the living objects are the ones that can digest food, that can think, feel, respond to stimuli, and all these different things, breathe. So this difference of this functionality of the living objects is because of the Sukshma Sharira. Okay. So this is the function. It makes the body alive. It makes it sentient. And it is the instrument for experiences. And it is not just one instrument, it is 17 instruments put together. 17. And what are those 17? We will see just a bit later. But before that, we will see the nature of the Sukshma Shariram, which is that it is also of a changing nature. So just like how Sthula Shariram, the physical body, has a changing nature. We know that the cells and all these, the physical parts are also constantly changing. In the same way, the Sukshma Shariram is also constantly changing. And how do we know this? You can observe your own mind. At no two moments you will find the mind exactly identical. It changes almost moment to moment, right? So we know that the mind and therefore the whole Sukshma Shariram is also of a changing nature. And this Sukshma Shariram, it has a much longer life than Sthula Shariram. Sthula Shariram, the physical body, has a lifespan of say about 100 years in the human body, right? So 70 to 100 years. And then what happens? The physical body drops. When that happens, what happens to the Sukshma Shariram? Does it also die? So Shastra says no. The Sukshma Shariram travels. Okay, it leaves this physical body and then picks up a new physical body in accordance with the karmas. So this comes in many verses of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna talks about the Sukshma Shariram leaving and it picks up a new body. Now, it's very interesting to think about this, because when the physical body, what we call death, when the physical body dies, like we discussed, actually there's no death as such. It doesn't vanish, right? It was the physical body is an aggregation of the 5 elements. And at the time of death, it just goes back to the 5 elements. So it is just a transformation. And then we have the Sukshma Shariram, which doesn't die. It just travels. It just leaves this body and goes to a new body. So when we say death, what is it that really dies? Does something die at all? And if nothing dies, then why do we cry? So this is something to think about and ponder. So I will just stop here for questions, if any.
Can
What
you
is,
please?
yeah, sorry. Should I
Yeah.
continue? What is emotion then?
Emotion is a part of this mind. So we will see that when we discuss the various components of the mind.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Can you please explain a little more about the cause, general cause and specific cause, please?
So the cause here is something like when you resolve it, what happens? For example, if you take a building, if you resolve the building to its cause, to a kind of like a building block, when you take it one step back, the building, what happens? You are left with brick and cement and all these things, right? Wood, brick, cement. So this is what we call the cause. Now, there are two kinds of cause. We said the common one and then the unique one. The common one, for example, if we take houses again, so the common one is the thing that is common in all the houses. So for example, brick you will find in all the houses. Cement, wood, you will find these things in all the houses. But what is unique about each house? The way it is designed, right? The plan of the house. So in some houses you will find the bedroom in one place, and in another house it will be in another place. The kitchen in one place, and in another house it's in a different place. So this plan is unique to each house, while the building material, the that is common. So in the human body also we find this. So all human beings, we commonly have blood, we have bones, we have internal organs, flesh. So that is common, right? But you will find that each person's bone structure, each person's DNA, each person's blood composition, all of this is unique. So there is one common part and there is a unique part. So the common part is the 5 elements. And what are the 5 elements? The space, air, fire, water, and earth. And the human body is a combination of all of these. How do we know this? The earth element is the solid part, whatever is the solid mass part of the body. Then water, of course, we know that the human body has water. And here you can take water to include other fluids and liquids also in the body, not just H2O. And then the fire element. So fire element represents the change or the transformative ability. So in our case, it will be the metabolism, our higher temperature. So we have a temperature above normal, right? And in order to maintain that temperature, metabolism has to go on. So that is taken care by the fire element. It need not be fire, physical fire that we see outside existing in the body. But what does that fire represent? It has the power to transform things. If you put something in fire, it changes, right? In the same way, this metabolic ability is also that same transformative ability. Okay, and in this, then there is the air element. We breathe, we know this, gaseous exchange, all of that. Then space, we occupy space. So we exist in space. So it is a combination of all the 5 elements, and this is common for everybody. But the body is unique also for everybody, right? It is not the same physical body, that no 2 physical bodies are identical ever. So this is the unique part, and that is determined by the karmas. So whatever you got in this life that you didn't ask for, that has come from your previous karmas. So we don't ask for our parents. We didn't ask for the country where we were born. We didn't ask for many things. You didn't ask for whether you want a male body or a female body. All these things we just got. So these things have come from the previous karmas. So when it comes to Sukshma Shariram, also it's the same. So everybody has a mind, but everybody has different personalities. So the common part is the mind, and the unique part is the personality and the functioning of that mind. Okay. And so here it is the subtle 5 elements. The 5 elements in their subtle form, invisible form. And the Vishesha Karanam, is the karmas again. So what determines what kind of mind you get? Some minds are sharp, some minds are not so sharp. So these kind of things are determined by the karmas. Okay.
Then there is the general cause of the Sukshma Shariram is the karma.
No, the general cause is the subtle 5 elements.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the specific cause?
Is the karmas.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions? Okay. So with this, we have finished the 4 points of Sukshma Shariram. And just one point I want to mention, that even though Sukshma Shariram has a longer life than Sthula Shariram, it is finally as if destroyed only at moksha. Okay, Sukshma Shariram is as if destroyed at moksha. It exists till then. Right. Now, this topic of Sukshma Shariram does not end with the 4 points. There is a 5th point, which is called the constituents. Now, I mentioned that Sukshma Shariram is not one instrument, it is a combination of 17 instruments. And those 17 are the constituents. And what are they? That we will see soon. But before that, let us just go back and see the verse. Then we will discuss the 17 components. So the student has asked the question, Sukshma Shariram Kim? Kim means what? So what is Sukshma Shariram? And the teacher answers. So he says, Apanchikrita Pancha Maha Bhuta. So if you remember in the previous one, in Sthula, it said Panchikrita Pancha Maha Bhuta. And now he's telling Apanchikrita means the non-grossified or subtle. So he's telling subtle. The word apanchikrita, you can take it to mean subtle. Subtle means invisible, that what you can't see or feel. So it is apanchikrita, subtle. Subtle pancha mahabhuta, the subtle 5 elements. Pancha means 5, Maha means great, and Bhuta means elements. So the subtle 5 great elements. In other words, 5 elements in their subtle form. Kritam. Kritam means composed of or made up of. So this Sukshma Shariram is composed of these subtle 5 elements. Then what does he say? Sat Karma Janyam. Janyam means born out of. So this subtle body is born out of Sat Karma. So karmas we have discussed, mixture of papam and punyam. And here Sat. Sat is generally a prefix that indicates positive. So when you say Sat Karma, the indication is punyam. Okay. So why does he say that? Because it takes some amount of punyam to be able to take a human birth. Okay. It's something like a 50-50 ratio. Okay, for a human birth. If there is not enough punyam, then there will be it will take a lower birth, like trees or animals. And if there is lot of punyam, very high punyam, then in one of the higher lokas, as one of the celestial beings. But if there is a somewhat 50-50 ratio, then the jiva takes a human birth. And human birth is very, very sacred in the scriptures, because they say that only in the human birth is moksha possible. Human birth, the moksha is not possible even in the higher lokas for the celestial beings. And it is definitely not possible for plants and animals. It is only possible for human beings. Okay. And that is why Sat Karma Janyam. Now that doesn't mean that papam is not there. Okay. It doesn't mean painful experiences will not be there. It just means it takes a good amount of punyam to take a human birth. But of course, that human birth will be fraught with suffering. So we all know from experience that life is not a bed of roses, right? There are ups and downs. There is some amount of suffering. And so that is the combination of punyam and papam. They also say it takes a tremendous amount of punyam to be able to sit in a Vedanta class, to be able to reach this. This is almost the final step in the evolution. So to be able to attend Vedanta also takes lot of punyam. Okay, so that is why Sat Karma Janyam. Then he says, Sukha Dukkha Adi Bhoga Sadhanam. Here the word sadhanam means tool or instrument. Okay, and so what is it an instrument for? He says, Sukha Dukkha. Sukha is pleasure, Dukkha is pain, Adi is etc. and Bhoga is experience. So for the experience of pain, pleasure, etc. Okay, so for all the different things we experience, generally, broadly, we classify them as favorable, pleasurable experiences and not so favorable, painful experiences. So that's why two large brackets, Sukha, Dukkha, and etc. and everything that comes in between. So sadhanam, the instrument for this. And from here to here, he talks about the 17 constituents. We'll come back and we'll see this. Sapta Dasha Kalabhihi. Kalabhihi means the parts, ingredients, constituents. And Sapta Dasha means 17 in Sanskrit. Sapta Dasha, 17, Kalabhihi, parts. Saha is with. Yat Tishtati. So the one who exists in this way with these 17 constituents and all these different conditions that we saw, Apajjikrita, Satkarmajanyam, Bhoga Sadhanam, all these things. So the one who exists in this way, Tat, that is Sukshma Shariram. Okay, so the one who exists in this way with 17 constituents made up of the 5 subtle elements, born out of a mixture of karmas, and which is the instrument for the experiences of pleasure and pain, that is called as Sukshma Sharira. Any questions till here?
Um, yes, I don't know if the question is in the proper place, but maybe please
Yes.
feel free to avoid it. You say that to get this human body, we need a 50-50 ratio of punya.
Yes.
I was wondering how the before, or we can say the lower level is animals and plants. How the animals and plants create a punyas in order to get a human birth and to get a human body. Thank you.
So animals and plants cannot generate punyam and papam. They cannot generate. Together they are called karma phalam. Okay. So together they cannot generate karma phalam, the fruits or the results of their actions. Only human beings can generate papam and punyam. So even the higher beings, the celestial beings, even they cannot generate karma. Only in a human birth you can generate karma. And that is what carries on. Okay. So this karma is generated out of actions taken out of free will. Only human beings have free will. So animals and plants, they are bound by their nature. They work on instinct. They don't work on free will. Only human beings have the ability for free will.
Yes, I heard that, but the question is, what
obvious
make the
question is-
change? What make the change becomes animal to from the form of animal to the form of the human body?
So I think the question you're asking is, where did it start? How did it start? If they started as animals and plants, then how did they become humans? And if they started as humans,
Right,
where did the 50-50 punyam and papam come from? So,
right. Thank you.
so basically, the understanding is that this is an eternal cyclical process. So there is no beginning and there is no end. Okay, it's like a circle. And this takes time to understand, okay, because we are very used to linear thinking. We have been conditioned to think that everything must have a beginning and everything must have an end. But this cycle of creation and, karma, it is cyclical. So there is no point at which you can ask, where did it start? Because it is a totally invalid question. So this takes time to understand, and as we go on, you will it will sink in more and more. So just like a circle, there is no point where you can say this is the beginning and this is the end, right? Wherever you put your finger, that is the beginning and that is the end also. But in a circle by itself, there is no beginning and there is no end. And this is the meaning of eternal, cyclical. Okay.
Thank you.
So any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
About free will, how much of your mind can be controlled by you? I mean, not even control. How much of your awareness you can have over your mind, and what is the guiding force for you to take a direction of your mind? What does help?
So free will is any action that you take with deliberation. When you deliberately take any action that you're able to kind of say yes or no to, and as a human being you have that, whereas dogs and animals, plants, they don't have that, right? They will just, if you put food in front of them, they will just eat. But if you put food in front of a human being, they will think, should I eat this? There is a choice there, yes or no, right? So human beings have that ability to say no also, even when you put food in front of them. So this free will, it's not exactly control over the mind. It is just, you are in charge. You can take your own decisions. That is the understanding of free will. And what should be the guiding force behind this is, well, different people have different guiding forces, but one of the main things, especially as a student of Vedanta, should be, well, one of the things should be dharma, and another thing should be development of more and more chitta shuddhi. Dharma is simple to understand. What you don't like happening to you, you don't do that to others. So if you don't like, obviously you don't enjoy when somebody hits you, right? It pains. So the same understanding is extended to others. If I hit somebody else, just like the way I don't like it, they also will not like it. So you don't do to them what you don't like happening to you. So that is one aspect. And as a student of Vedanta, one of the driving forces should be the goal of moksha. And for that, what do you need? You need chitta shuddhi followed by jnanam. So everything that you do, either directly or indirectly, must be taking you there.
Okay. And we were talking, Jiva also transforms from one body or another. Mind also transforms. Are they same or are they different? Jiva and mind.
Sukshma Shariram is sometimes referred to as Jiva.
Okay. Thank you.
And mind is one part of Sukshma Shariram. So mind alone cannot be called as Jiva.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. So now we will see the 17 components of Sukshma Shariram, which are here. So these are just the names, and we will see them in detail also. Pancha Nyanindriyani. Pancha means 5, Jnana means knowledge, and Indriya means organ. So 5 organs of knowledge. Organ of knowledge means the input organs, the organs that give you information about the outside world. And there are 5 of these, and it is fairly obvious. We all already know these. What are the 5?
Skin, skin, tongue, eyes, nose, and ear.
Yes, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. So the 5 input organs. Then Pancha Karmendriyani. Pancha again means 5. Karma means action. Indriya means organ. So 5 organs of action. So these are the output organs. Okay. So they help you take action in the world. And what are those 5? They are hands, legs, the mouth, the organ of speech, the organ of reproduction, and the organ of excretion. 5. Okay. Pancha Karmendriyani. Then Pancha Prana. Pancha is again 5, and Prana. Prana can be taken to mean a life force or an energy force. So prana is like the energy that powers the body, the different physiologies of the body, the power behind that, that is prana. There are 5 of them called prana, apana, samana, udana, vyana. Okay, we'll see them when we come to that topic. Then he says, manashaikam, one manaha. And here, don't translate manaha as mind. Okay, there is a technical meaning for the word manaha, which we will see. Manaha does not translate as just mind. And then buddhi eka. There is one buddhi. Buddhi is the intellect, the rational faculty. So that also there is one. So now if you count 5, 5, 5, 1, 1. If you add up 5 plus 5, 10, plus 5, 15, plus 1, 16, plus 1, 17. Sapta Dasha. 17 constituents are there. Okay. Now in some books you may find 19. There are 2 more components that the author has not mentioned here. We don't know why, whether he left them out on purpose or whether it was lost in the manuscript. We don't know. But in other books, in some other books, you will find 19. Okay. 2 more are there. They are Ahankara and Chitta. So we will study 19, even though the author has only mentioned 17. Okay. So these are the 17 constituents given by the author, plus 2 more, Ahankara and Chitta. Yeah, so we have time to at least take up one of these. So the first one is the 5 sense organs, the Pancha, Nyanindriyani. So let's just read this. Shrotram tvak chakshuhu,
Shrotram
Chakshushu,
rasana ghranam,
Rasanagranam
Rasanagranam,
iti pancha jnanendriyani.
Iti
Panchajnani.
Panchajnani.
Right. So this is nothing. Sorry. So this is nothing new. It is just the names of the 5 organs in Sanskrit. Shrotram is ears, Tvak is skin, Chakshuhu is eyes, Rasanam is tongue, and Ghranam is nose. Okay. Shrotram, ears, Tvak, skin, Chakshu, eyes, Rasanam, tongue, Ghranam, nose. Now, there's a interesting question that you all must be getting here, a small point. So I will just hint and you can see if you get it. Now we discussed that Sukshma Shariram is visible or invisible.
Invisible.
Okay, so if Sukshma Shariram is invisible, its constituents, the components, they must be visible or invisible.
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 They must also be invisible. And yet here we are talking about ears and eyes and all these things. These are visible, right?
Yes.
So is this not a contradiction?
Yeah, it seems like it's a physical body that we are mentioned here, but we don't know the meaning. You have to explain.
I think we are talking of the perceived, the perception through these.
Yes. Okay, so in a sense, we are talking about the functioning of these parts. So the physical part that you can see, the physical ears and eyes and tongue, everything that you can see, that belongs to anatomy. Okay, and that physical anatomical part in Sanskrit, we call it as golakam. Okay, the golakam is the physical part that you can see, the physical eyes or the physical ears. But there is a power that makes this organ operate, right? There is an energy or a shakti that makes each of these organs operate. So you may have heard of some blind people who have eyes. The physical part is there, but still they cannot see. Then there are some people who have ears, but still they cannot hear, right? And in fact, this is what happens with aging, right? Even though the physical part, sometimes it undergoes degeneration, of course, but sometimes even though the physical part is absolutely fine, still that operation is not happening. And that is because the indriyam, the subtle part, that is damaged. Okay, damaged or not available, whatever. So this is the understanding. So these Shrotram, Tvak, Chakshu, Rasana, Granam, these things you have to remember belong to Sukshma Shariram. So we are not talking about the visible physical parts. We are talking about the invisible power behind these things that make them function. Okay. Any questions on this?
So this invisible power is called as Indriyam.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
So what we call as sense organs, Indriyam, refers to that invisible power and not to the physical organ itself. Okay, is this clear? And if the physical part is damaged, then even if Indriyam is there, it may not function. Like your phone, right? Even sometimes just the screen breaks and the inside part might be fine. But if the screen is broken, then you will not know, right? Or sometimes the whole phone gets damaged. So even if the software part is fine, without the hardware, it cannot function. So it needs the hardware. Okay. Any question?
Medha ji,
Yes.
I understand that the functionality is dependent on the neuronal control, the nerves which control these, the eyes, the nose, and the auditory, the optical nerves, and so that's anatomy.
That's anatomy.
Yes. So then, what is the subtle? What is this? How do you explain the subtle function, the subtle part?
The subtle part is invisible. It cannot be perceived by any of your sense organs. But remember that non-perception is not proof of non-existence.
Yes, right.
Okay, just
Yeah,
because you can't see something doesn't mean that it's not there.
so can I say, like you mentioned anatomy and physiology, if nerves are there, until and unless there's a conduction of impulse, nerve will not act. So the invisible part is the conduction of impulse. through
Again,
the
all of those things are still very much, belonging to the sthula part only. Sukshma is invisible. It is the power. You can understand it as a Shakti or the powerhouse behind the operation of the organ. And the medium of operation might be electrical impulses or nerves or all these things. But that power itself is totally invisible.
Medha, there is an instrument which actually can see the aura or the 5 sheets or something of a person. So can Indriyams also be kind of detected in?
Not exactly. The Kirillian photography you're talking about,
Yeah.
I'm not sure to what extent that would correspond with subtle body.
Okay.
Okay. So we don't have time to start the next topic, the next part. So we will just stop here for today. If there are any more questions, you can ask. Otherwise, we will end the session. Okay. So then we can end with Purnamada. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat पूर्णमुदच्यते
पूर्णमुदच्यते
पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय
पूर्णमादाय
पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते
पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते।
ॐ
ॐ
शान्ति
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 शान्तिः
शान्तिः।
हरिः ॐ
हरिः ॐ
श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः
नमः।
हरिः ॐ
Hari
ॐ ॐ तत्सत् Thank you everybody. See you next week.
Raji.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Medha.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Have a good weekend.